in the 6'5" Observer, it's also reported that Barry Windham is going to be making the jump to the WWF. Ted, what do you think of Barry Windham? And did you see big things for a talent like him in the WWF here on the biggest stage in wrestling?
I thought Barry was, a good worker. I mean, again, he's another kid who was raised in the wrestling business. His dad was Blackjack Mulligan.
Yeah.
And Blackjack was, you talk about, he was, I mean, he was a pretty good worker too, but he was as, when he had to be, he could be as real as you wanted him to be.
Mm-hmm.
He's one of those guys you want with you if you could only walk down a dark alley with one friend. But Barry, I wasn't around Barry a lot. What I saw of him, I admired. I thought he was a good worker, and I think he and my partner were tagged up for a while.
Yes, during Barry's first run.
Yeah, him and Mike Rotunda were tag team partners for a while. And I mean, they were gonna, and of course, I thought the world of Mike, thought the world of my partner.
And, I'm glad you brought that up because it's kind of going to lead into my next point about Barry. So he had already been with the WWF prior in the US Express with Mike Rotunda, and now he's coming in with the Widowmaker gimmick, and they are not acknowledging him as Barry Windham. And I think Vince even calls him an upstart whenever he comes into wrestling. For frame of reference, Barry's been wrestling for years and years at this point. So they don't acknowledge his past at all, which is kind of a weird thing, but they bring him in as the Widowmaker. Ted, what do you think about this when it comes to like kind of repackaging somebody and pretending like, oh, this guy's brand new to wrestling, even though he's got a great lineage? He was part of the Four Horsemen.
I don't know, man. I don't know. I think it's kind of like I started wrestling in 1975. And of course, and just I wrestled as Ted DiBiase, my real name. I wasn't a character or anything like that. And, but then, when I went up to the WWE, all of a sudden, it's like, okay, Vince was creating these characters. And of course, my character was a villain, almost like the Ebenezer Scrooge of wrestling. And my attitude toward was that is okay. This is where we're going. That's okay. But I still went by my real name, Ted DiBiase, the $1 Million Man. Vince might have, if he thought about it, he might have dropped Ted DiBiase and just $1 Million Man because merchandise and all that stuff. I mean, he can't,
he can't own your name.
He owns the $1 Million Man, but he can't own my name.
Right.
So,
yeah, things worked out really fortunately for you, and that does make me wonder, Ted, if you had come in the door and he was calling you an upstart and stuff like that, and acting like you were just this guy who's brand new to wrestling, is that like, are you like, okay, well, I'm playing a role here, or would you have been like, hey man, I've got a pretty well established lineage here in wrestling?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think that I would have spoken up about it.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that was just, maybe, I guess Barry was going to do whatever he had to do to get the job.
Probably so.
And you bringing this up, it's like, I didn't realize that.
Yeah. It's like, it's some of the little nuances that you pick up on whenever I'm doing like the research for this. And Meltzer mentioned it in the Observer back in '89. Like Vince called Barry Windham an upstart. He was in the Four Horsemen. Like fans knew and loved him. Like it's more cool to me to have Barry Windham come in and say like
Four Horsemen weren't part of Vince's show.
Right. But they are a big part of
it. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't know. I don't think anybody ever. I had been to New York once before. Asked Ted DiBiase when Vince McMahon Sr. was still alive.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like I wasn't brand new to the fans in that area.
Yeah.
So maybe that had, Ted DiBiase, the $1 Million Man. I don't know.
Yeah, just a really strange thing. And, he would do it later with Ricky Steamboat whenever Ricky would come back as the Dragon, where he wouldn't call him Ricky Steamboat at all.
Yeah.
So just, I don't know, kind of a strange, I guess, this was the era when I think Vince was starting to think more and more about owning the rights to everything that went on his TV.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So guys like you and Jake and Jim Duggan came in probably at just the right time for your careers.
Yeah. Yeah.
Last thing about Barry before we move on, he is this guy. He's got this great look. He's big. He can work. Pretty good on the mic. Like he's got pretty much everything that you'd want in a wrestler. But he had a lot of difficulty getting over in the WWF, where the Widowmaker didn't work out, of course, and before he was with the US Express. But on paper, you look at this guy, I'm like, well, that guy's a star. What do you think Barry was lacking that held him down?
Marcus, I couldn't really tell you because I never watched him enough. I think I may have seen him, like Mike may have showed me like a tape or something of them as a tag team. I never saw them at all when they were a tag team.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. That's just, I don't have any idea. I mean, it's kind of like, mechanically, he was good. I don't know. It's kind of like he was good. There was no doubt that he was good. My partner Mike was good. The thing about is kind of like charisma. If you don't have it, if you don't have charisma, then you're not going to make it.
Yeah.
But then there's different levels of charisma. So I don't know.
Yeah, Ted, I think maybe the argument could be made that really all that was missing for Barry Windham was the right opportunities, because you take a look at that guy, and again, it seems like he's got all of it, including the lineage in wrestling. So, yeah, I don't know, kind of weird that he would go to the biggest stage in wrestling and not have the kind of success he would enjoy elsewhere.
Yeah, and I can't answer that question for you. I mean, it's like I thought he was good. It's kind of like I thought he was a good worker, but I didn't. I never saw enough of him to say, oh my gosh, they need to, they need to make him the champion or anything like that. I just, my knowledge of that, you probably get, obviously, you'd get a better read on Barry from my partner, Mike Rotunda.
Yes.
So